You are listening to the TeensMAD Show that helps teens discover who they are so they can become productive, confident, and caring young adults. My name is Naveen Alex, and I am a youth speaker and coach. I started working among the teens after the gruesome ragging experience. I'm sitting down with youngsters to talk about their journey of finding themselves and how they mustered the courage to pursue their calling and how they are inspiring the community around them.
Thanks everyone for joining into this TeensMAD show. So we are with the second episode, and so what about TeensMAD? So TeensMAD, we're trying to build a community of youngsters to help them discover their potential, and eventually they start contributing to the society and help others around them to make a big difference. So this is a platform to bring in youngsters who are on that path, and today we have a very dynamic person with us. I also want to kind of thank everyone for their feedback and the encouragement that we got for the last episode. I think there's a lot of feedback that came in, and we want to thank you for all that, and keep giving your feedbacks. Like us on YouTube, keep subscribing so that more people can get this content. So let's get into this second episode. When I was talking to Pratik Mohapatra, I asked him, "Hey, what should be this webinar all about?" Right, and he said that I think we should title it as "Follow the Passion." So this episode we're calling it as "Follow the Passion." So a brief about Pratik. So Pratik is a very dynamic, vibrant youngster that I have met so far. I've been working with teens for a long time, so I came across a gem of a person. I think throughout this webinar, you'll kind of understand, how amazing this person is. So he is currently pursuing his Bachelor's of Engineering from RV College, Bangalore. He's just in college, but when I tell you about the different feathers that he has already added to his cap, you'll be amazed. So he's the winner of the Microsoft Imagine Cup, which was a worldwide competition that happened in the space of big data, and he was able to bring out a solution called as Drug Safe, which was to detect the counterfeit drugs using Microsoft Azure and Power BI. So a youngster in college already working on some of the latest technologies, which is really amazing. He was also awarded as the youngest CEO by the Microsoft Decade. He's also been featured in many of the newspapers, some of the newspapers like Times of India, Economic Times, The Hindu. If I start telling you the list of newspapers, I think that itself will take a long time. So I'll limit to these 2-3 newspapers. And also I was really happy to see the number of internships that he has done. I think many of times in college we try to just do whatever is the bare minimum that's given, but he has done internships in Deloitte, India Spark, Zomato, LinkedIn, Microsoft. So I think it's amazing to see that he has used his time well, wisely. So I'm just looking forward to this conversation with Pratik, and we're very privileged to have you, Pratik, to join us on this TeensMAD show.
Oh, thank you, Naveen. I'm more than happy to be on the show and, in fact, helping people out, spreading the knowledge that I have. So, yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah.
Great, Pratik. So Pratik, I think we can just start with a brief introduction about yourself and kind of tell us what you're doing currently.
Sure. So, I'm currently studying, as you rightly said, in RV, which is in the final year of engineering computer science. I recently interned with Microsoft as a product manager intern, and I recently went forward to win the Microsoft AI for Good Idea Challenge, which was a worldwide competition held in Redmond. So I won that, and I've got a returning offer with Microsoft. So I'm just looking forward to join them in the near future. So that's something about me. Yeah.
Great. So, Pratik, when I was talking to you, I kind of understood that you started doing a lot of things when you were young, right?
Yeah.
So, many of the teenagers that I interact with, I think they're all behind academics, trying to go for a lot of tuitions and coaching, right? But you being in such a young age, right? Your inclination towards technology started. So, can you tell us about how did your inclination towards technology start, and how is it that you are treading a very different path compared to what the regular teens are doing?
Sure. I think that's a great question, right? So I think one of the biggest problems that we have in our world is, especially in India, is academics, right? So I think one of the things is that academics is very important and essential because it builds your foundation. But at the same point of time, I think everyone has the same 24 hours, and to utilize those 24 hours, it's completely up to you. You could study, you could be in school from, let's say, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., but that's technically, let's say, about 8 to 9 hours. The rest, about 14 to 15 hours, you still have it left. And that was my logic. If I could give it at least 2 hours every day from my ninth grade, from those 14-hour bank, I could utilize it really further. Usually from that 14-hour bank, we usually go out to play, go out to do something, have fun, party, or do whatever we can. But we do not utilize those 14 hours in the right way, right? I think the difference that made me is that I was utilizing those 14 hours in a very comprehensive manner because I was really passionate about technology and I just wanted to be there at the epicenter of building apps. So that's something that helped me start. And post which I went forward to build applications because of the inspiration that I had from my dad's mobile. He had actually got a mobile and he told me that his scientific calculator doesn't work. And I went forward to go build a scientific calculator, which got published in the Microsoft Store. So I think, yes. So I think my primary concept is about discipline and hard work. And if you could just uh, channelize those 14 hours into the right way, I think that would take you a long way.
So, do you have some best practices or some practices that you follow, right, to utilize this time at the best? I think if you can, share some of that, I'm sure that many of our viewers and the teens in our community can make use of it.
Sure. I think one of the problems that we have, as I pointed out, is that we have a lot of distractions around us. We have video games, we have Facebook, Instagram, and all the social media applications that we have. But the problem is that you should be very, very disciplined. And when I say discipline, is that you should know how to shut down these applications for about 1, 2 hours to know where you stand, right? And post which, if you shut down these applications for 1, 2 hours, you could give your entire mind and your mindset to what you're building. And I think that's very crucial and that's very important. So shutting down your social media life, your video games, your everything else would really help you to achieve what you want to achieve, right? I remember shutting myself in the room and just coding away straight for 3, 4 hours, and I would do that without my parents telling me because I was really passionate about that. And when I used to code, my mind wouldn't wander for anything else, right? So that discipline regime is very crucial and very important.
Great. So, I think about the initial days we're trying to discuss, right? So I heard that, a scientific calculator getting broken and that kind of, made you go and tingle with it, right? So are there any other experiences in your childhood that, you remember or or you keep close to you, right? Which has helped you to think differently and to chart out in this different path that you're traveling today?
Sure. I think when I look back at my childhood, I think I was really interested in video games, right? And I wanted to know the crux of how maybe a Counter-Strike works or how maybe a Grand Theft Auto works or the famous games that we had, right? And when I spoke to my teachers, they told me that, what, this is built using programming, this is built using code, and it's built using a video graphic suite. So that is something that also inspired me in terms of how do these games work. Why can't we have some kind of a way that I can win all the time? So that curiosity into games also led into the fact of me programming. So yeah.
Yeah, so I think many of times youngsters have a lot of ideas, right? So I've seen teenagers as I work along with them having a lot of ideas, but where I think it breaks is how do you take the idea forward, or how do
Yeah.
you take that that thought process forward, right? So once you understood that, hey, technology is something that I want to do, I want to get into apps. You started having a liking towards it. So what was the next step, right? So I'm sure that you had to build skills, you had to figure out a way to take some of your products or solutions out into the world. So can you tell us about how is it that once you have an idea, how do you take this forward?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So I think a lot of teenagers at this point of time would have bubbling ideas, right? Ideas even to maybe fix a water dripping using technology, or maybe fix a gas leakage using technology. But what you got to understand first is something I call the design thinking process, right? The design thinking process is a very simple process which tells you to first understand the problem really well. And what I mean here is that if you understand the problem well, you're almost getting to 60 to 70% of the solution. A lot of times what happens is people go forward and build solutions that are already existing, right? Then you're not going to get any kind of profitability in that. You have to go forward and analyze the market, analyze. You all have Google, right? You can easily search it out. You could see if your idea is existing or idea is not existing. First point, right? The second point is that if your idea is not existing, how would you make it better, right? If your idea is existing, how would you also make it better, right? So then after that, I think a lot of tutorials are there online about, let's say, coding, coordination, and all of those things about how to go with your first Android application, right? And you have immense amount of forums, immense amount of YouTube channels. I mean, they could connect with me, they could connect with you. I'm always available on LinkedIn. But the point here that I'm trying to make is that you need to have the drive to do it, right? I think that's the most important thing here. When I started out, I went to every possible channel on YouTube to know how we can do a certain thing. Let's say you want to build a message box that pops your name, "Hi, I am Pratik." That message box, how would you go forward and do it? So that is on YouTube. Those videos are available. You have developers.android.com, you have developers.microsoft.com, where a plethora of knowledge is available. And trust me, it's all about, even a 13-year-old or a 12-year-old can follow those steps and get to the solution. It's all about just giving yourself to it. So, yeah.
So Pratik, I'm sure that the viewers that we have, right? I'm sure that there might be some folks who are trying to develop those apps, who are trying to put their hands onto it. So can you kind of for their benefit and to help them out, what are some of the steps that they can take? What are some of the steps that you take or that
Yeah.
you took to build your skills, right? So what will those be?
Sure. So I would say first start out at, especially I feel there are a lot of free courses that are available in about Android, right? I think when you want a solution to reach a mass audience, you have to build on Android. You have to scale for Android, right? And you could easily just go forward and learn Android, and when I say Android, Android is a very vast subject, right? I'm not telling you to learn the entire thing. I'm telling you, start off at some point, right? Start off with certain, let's say, the first 2 3 steps. Just build a simple message box saying that, "Hi, my name is Alex," or "My name is Pratik," "My name is Naveen," "My name is whatever it is," right? It's all about starting somewhere. And once you start, you automatically start getting components. And the resources to start would be YouTube, would be developers.android.com, would be Udacity nanodegree courses, would be EDX, would be Coursera. There are a lot of online learning sites. One just needs to be disciplined. One just needs to have the passion to do it. So I would say the learning sites like Coursera, EDX, and Microsoft Learning, developers or google.com are the sites to go for.
Great, Pratik. So, guys who are listening to this, take this first step, or you might have already taken, these steps, and maybe if you are building something, we'll be more than happy to, help you and take this forward. So I'm sure that Pratik going forward is going to be part of TeensMAD and the community, as you go forward, right? So please reach out to us if you are, taking these steps and, need some mentoring. So great, Pratik. So another thing that I want to understand was, yeah, so once you build these solutions,
Yeah.
right, how did you take it to the world, right? How was it that, you kind of attracted people towards it? So can you just tell us about that, about how was it that you took some of these things into the world and got the, viewership into the world?
Yeah, sure. I think I would say I also got lucky there. I think when you apply for competitions, as you know, competitions are more like, it's a game, right? You never know you'll win or you lose. I mean, you just apply hoping you'll win, right? At the end of the day, I feel that if your solution is good, it serves value, it has a good design, it has a good interface, and it has value, right? Now, if you look at all my solutions, I built it for a certain purpose. Built it for a certain reason, right? Now, let's say you have built an application to change the color of your mobile versus someone who's built an application to, let's say, get a drug delivered, like a medicine delivered. That's the difference you're talking about, right? So you need to have a purpose for your solution. The moment you have that, I think, the moment you submitted for the competition, so the moment you talk to leaders of various companies like Google, Microsoft, Android, or let's say Apple, or any of those leaders, they always look for purpose. And the moment they know that you're building a great solution, they automatically start a conversation with you, saying that, what, why don't let's meet over coffee, and why don't you talk to me about your solution? That's where you get more connects, and you could really go forward and publicize it better. So yeah.
Yeah, so I think many of times, right, we're waiting for people to come to us, right? But I think
Yeah.
what I'm hearing from you is how do we reach out to people and and kind of talk to them about what we have. So
Yeah.
so I saw a lot of internships. I'm just kind of
Sure.
assuming here, but wanting to kind of understand, how did you get those internships? Was that
Yeah.
part of your college, or was it part of your journey of spending time with people and telling about your ideas?
Sure. So I think my internships would be the fact that I was able to, network with the right people at the right time. So I think my first internship with Zomato was because I went to Internshala. I really remember this, and I applied online, right? And I got shortlisted there, gave a couple of rounds of interviews, and then I made it, right? Post which Deloitte came through completely through networking on LinkedIn. I met a couple of people in Deloitte on LinkedIn, and they said that, why don't you pass your CV to us and we can review your candidature on how to go forward. And Microsoft was pure merit, to be honest. I think they posted on the careers.microsoft.com where you can go and apply, and applied, and I had my interview rounds, and yeah, I got the interview. But I think one thing I would like to point out here is that a lot of people sometimes do get the opportunity, but they certain times do not do that well in the interviews because they are a bit complacent or overconfident, right? They think that I'm going to do well, or I'll do well in the interview. So you got to give it your 100%. And my second point would be that don't look at money, right? When I still remember my salary in Zomato, it was 10,000 per month, right? And for maybe someone of a computer science background, 10,000 per month, it would be pretty low, right? Because you come from a computer science background. But I didn't look at the salary back then. Even if you were telling me to work for free, because many internships come at no price, I would have done that because I needed to learn. And those learnings really helped me to grow further. So I think don't look at salary. Don't look at the fact that you're not getting a specific role, because I've seen that with a lot of people, right? 90% of the people are very picky about their first jobs, right? So do what comes your way, do it the best, give your best every day, and I'm sure you'll do well. So yeah.
So Pratik, as I'm just having this conversation with you, I'm really amused that you're saying job, you're saying salary. I think a lot of people are just waiting to finish their course to even think about, hey, what job will I get into or what salary? Maybe in the
Hmm.
last fourth year is when they even start thinking about all of this, right?
Yeah.
So, it's just very surprising, and it's very amusing to see that, you've been thinking about this way before.
Yeah.
So, how are you able to think very differently?
Sure.
So I think it's going to be a great nugget, right? That I think you can pass to
I
others.
think I think the thing that's worked with me is the fact that I read a lot, and I don't read uh, storybooks, right? That's the difference between me. I go on to read a lot of scientific blogs. I go on to read a lot of personal experiences, right? And let's just say that when I read, let's say, I read a lot on medium.com, right? That's a beautiful site where you have experiences of people, right? When you read experiences of people, and when you read and connect with people who are, let's say, 10 years or 15 years elder to you, that's what's important, right? I have always had a friend circle or a mentorship circle that's always above 10 to 15 years than me, right? First point, right? And that shouldn't be your parents, right? Because your parents are really close to you and they'll always protect you. I think what's worked with me is the fact that I always had people or two or three trusted source of people who were, let's say, 10 to 15 years elder to me. They have seen the world, right? They know exactly what it is, what should be done together, what should be done to, maybe secure your future. And that's what's really helped me, right? Talking to people of not my age, but talking to people of an elder age than me. That's really changed me.
Great, Pratik. So, Pratik, I think another very important topic that's coming out as I'm working with teams is the well-being, right? Especially the mental well-being. So I think I'm working with a lot of teams who are today they're depressed, right? They say that there's too much of competition.
Yeah.
I always have to do my best. I think there's a lot of pressure from parents.
Yeah.
So, what is your take on this, right? Because, today, you've surpassed all of that, and today, you have carved a path for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Where I think people, others are looking around. So,
Mm.
what is your take on this topic? What are your thoughts? Have you gone through some difficulties?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's a lovely experience I would like to share, right? So I think academically, I was not one of the brightest students out there, right? I remember, especially in 11th standard, because I'm from a CBSE background, science, especially organic chemistry, I would never be good in that, right? And mathematics or anything of that sort. I mean, it's not that I have achieved all of this overnight. I think I've had my fair share of struggles, especially my apps failing, my apps not doing well, let it be my academics, let it be my parents telling me that, you know what, you should be focusing on academics and not on app building. But I think one thing that I kept constant in me is the fact that I was able to keep that noise around me completely mute. And my mindset has always been that of a growth mindset. I do not think of something as a negative. I always see positives in a certain thing, and the experiences make you stronger, right? Coming to your point, right, where you said people get depressed because of competition. See, I think you go anywhere, right? There's no escaping of competition. I think even if you go to Iceland tomorrow, Iceland maybe to get, let's say, woods for fire, there will be competition to get those woods, right? There is no shortcut in life. I mean, there will be competition even at the highest level, right? So there's nothing to get depressed about it. But at the same point of time, if you do feel depressed, then you should definitely go forward and watch some motivation videos. That's really helped me. You should go forward and read experiences, read more logics, read more books, and that makes you much more stronger mentally. And exercise, right? Exercise, play, workout, gym, do whatever you like. Like, give 1 hour of that. I said, right, 14 hours of a bank, you got to utilize it the right way. Instead of just whiling away time, sitting and eating a package of chips in front of the TV, that's not going to get you anywhere. You've got to utilize those 14 hours in the right way, right? So if you have school or if you have college from 8 to 4, it doesn't matter. Post that, what are you doing? You should be asking that question to yourself, right? Depression, mood swings, that happens with everybody. But if you do things like exercising and you put your brain to focus on the right things, I think it never does occur to the people who are focusing and disciplined on a certain thing. I think depression is more about, let's say, you're idle, you keep thinking about hundreds and thousands of thoughts, and those thoughts keep killing you within, right? So if you're engaged in an activity, I'm sure those thoughts do not come in. Yeah.
Yeah, so Pratik, I think for those who don't know what is growth mindset, right? So growth mindset, I think there are two types of mindset that we talk about, which is a growth mindset as well as a fixed mindset. So many of the folks that is around of us looks at everything with a fixed mindset. That is, I have been born in this situation. I have this much of intellect. Hey, I suck at maths. I can never draw. Right. So these
Yeah.
kind of thought process that's there in the mind of people is what we call as fixed mindset. But what Pratik is kind of talking to us is about growth mindset, which means that your situations, your experiences, your intellect doesn't really define who you are, but it's more about, hey, with my capabilities, right? God has given me a great brain, a good energy, a good body. If I have all those basics, then I can still achieve great things, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's where Pratik kind of mentioned about learning. I think resilience is also very important. That your ability to go through hardships, difficulties, to make that tweaks, right? So just wanted to call out that for people who have not even heard of what is a growth mindset.
Sure.
So Pratik, what are some of the skills that you think are very important for teens to develop at their young age, so that when they come into college and when they pass out,
Yeah.
it can really help them out.
Sure. I think if I look at skills, right, before skills, I'll tell you one thing that's really helped me in my life, right? I think first thing is that be good with people, right? I think being good with people takes you a long way in life, right? Skills, you can learn it on the job. Let's say I can tell you Python, C Sharp, C++, all those languages, but I personally believe that you can learn that on the job and take a course and do that, right? I mean, I tell you something today, people watch it. Maybe if they watch the videos 6 months later, C or C++ will be outdated, right? So I'm not going to tell you the language, right? Skill set number one one for me is be good with people, right? Know how to communicate, know how to talk, know how to, make a person happy. That's very crucial, right? Because you won't come across a lot of people who are not like you, right? And that's where the difficulty starts, right? And people are not like you. How do you gel with them? How do you talk with them, right? That's the first point, right? The second point is, let's say, having a growth mindset, as we discussed, right? Don't be fixed on a certain thing, right? Learn to accept feedback, right? And what I mean by that is, if I say to you that, hey, this design could be improved by adding maybe red color into this, and even if someone younger than you is selling that, take that. Take that, analyze it, and then maybe agree to it or disagree to it. That's your choice. But be accepted to feedback, right? Don't be like, you don't know anything, man. I mean, I have done this. That's the second thing, right? The third thing is the fact that network. Um, and I say this because, trust me, if you are not able to market yourself right, you're not able to network yourself right, then no matter what you do, people are not going to see it, people are not going to believe it, and it's really, really pointless even doing anything of that sort, right? And the last point to sum it all up would be the fact that, you should be really disciplined. And when I say this, I mean it, right? If I said 14 hours, if you can do 2 hours of solid hard work every day for 2 months, I'll give it to you in writing that you will be as famous as anyone else. Right? You've got to be really disciplined. Let it be your workout regime, let it be your coding regime, or let it be anything in your life. If you want to become a cook, you want to become a driver, you want to become anything in life, you've got to be disciplined about it, right? You got to practice, then only will the results come, right? Without practice, you cannot expect results. I mean, there is no shortcut to life. I think even you will agree, Navi. There's no shortcut to life. Everyone goes through a lot of hardships. They fail, they grow, they fail, they grow. But at that point of time, how you come back and how much disciplined you are, that's what makes a difference.
Yeah, so Pratik, I completely agree with you, right? I think today, the world that we live in, I think we're moving more towards a virtual world, right? Where we're talking about AR, VR, a virtual reality as such, right? So,
Yeah.
today social networking is like a virtual reality, right? Where it's very easy to be there. It's easy to try to showcase yourself, but the real world is always difficult. And I think what happens is, life is not about the number of likes, right? I
Yeah.
think life is about
Definitely.
the difficulties that you go through and how you're able to circum that. I think today a lot of people get a lot of likes and they think that they're the best, but when they get into the real life, right, I think they find it very difficult.
Yeah, I think I would just like to add a point, right? I think that's such a great point you told. I mean, I see that in teenagers today, right? They get very complacent. They have that wrong or negative attitude, right? Hey, you know what? I got placed, or hey, you know what? I won a competition, or that's small things in life. I mean, you shouldn't be really excited or jump around or get attitude because of something small that happened. Right? Always be grounded, always be humble and be hungry. So yeah.
Yeah. So Pratik, at TeensMAD, we always talk about one is developing yourself, right? Because you're privileged too, but there are many around of you who doesn't have as much as privilege as you have or we have, right? So, how are you planning to inspire those around of you with the craft that you have built? Right. So have you ever thought about, in that direction yet, or have you done anything so far around that?
Sure, I think at the end of the day, it's all about giving back to the community. And post, let's say, after my college end, because it's really hectic during the college hours. But I think once my college ends, especially in the last semester, I want to give back to the community. I do, in fact, want to give or hold workshops in product management, make YouTube videos, or do something that would really help me in product management and all of that. So, and help others learn about product management well on design thinking and all of that. So, free resources like YouTube or maybe making some courses, videos, educational content so that people can watch it at free of cost. So yeah.
Great. So, Pratik, we're looking forward for you to associate with TeensMAD. And, I think it'll be great, if you can come around and, kind of help us out in reaching out to the teens,
Sure.
so that there can be many more Pratiks, who are,
Yeah.
doing things very differently, right? I think, I get really inspired by that thought right now.
Sure. Sure.
So the last thing, I want to kind of, ask you is, right, what advice do you have for teens, right? So when I say advice, based on your learnings, failures, what are some of those things, right, that, you can tell the teens today so that they don't repeat the same thing but they can build on top of that.
Sure. I think first thing would be get away from distractions, right? As good as maybe Facebook is, Instagram is, or whatever social media platform it is, it's good. I mean, I'm not saying go anti Facebook or anti Instagram, but at the same point of time, monitor yourself, right? There is to a point as much as parents can do, right? You got to monitor yourself. Be disciplined, right? Be disciplined in terms of what you want to achieve, and be disciplined in terms of being happy in life, right? What brings you happiness, do that, and do things that are good for your health, right? I think a lot of people end up having bad habits and drinking, smoking, or doing some sort of things which are not advisable at all. Maybe at that point of time you're enjoying it, but trust me, it's just degrading your health no matter what, right? The third thing would be that have a foresight or have a vision of where you want to go. I know you can't predict the future, but at least you can understand what you want in future, right? I've always had a vision. I've always envisioned that someday I would become. So only when you have a vision do you envision to become that. And the last thing would be that respect people around you. I think that's more than important. Your parents, your siblings, whoever comes across, right? Be good with people, respect them, and be generous with the amount of knowledge that you share. I've seen this with a lot of teens that they have some knowledge about a certain thing and they do not want to share it because they think that okay, that person will get to know about it. But I mean, life is bigger than that. I mean, if you help others, it really does come back. So I believe in that. So yeah, these are my points.
Great. So Pratik, before we sign off, what do you think of this concept of Teens Man?
Yeah.
Would like to hear from you. What can we do, or what are your thoughts around, what we're trying to achieve?
Sure. So I think this is a really cool format, right? I think being able to give an experience of myself or any other teen who's been successful in their career would mean a lot to the other teens because they could learn a lot, right? If I had a resource like this when I was maybe 13, and that's almost 6 to 7 years ago, I would really look up to this person and ping this person right away and say, you know what, hey Pratik, how can I be like you? Or the learning aspects, the traits that we both are discussing, it remains common throughout, right? For success, it's always common, right? Even if, let's say, Virat Kohli comes at here, he will also tell you the same things like discipline, growth mindset. It doesn't change, right? So if it's an inspiration to others, and if others are able to see it and view it and perceive it in the right way, I think this is a really great show. So thank you so much for having me, and I'm so glad that we can reach out to a wider audience rather than just having a one-on-one conversation. So I think this is a really great format.
Yeah. So thanks, Pratik, for joining us. I'm looking forward to seeing on your journey. We'll not let you go like that.
Sure.
We will come back to you to seeing, what are you going to do at Microsoft. I think it's really exciting to see that, you've been picked up in Microsoft. So, maybe 3-4 years down the line,
Sure. Sure.
a little bigger Pratik, we would love to
Sure.
talk to you. And
Sure.
I'm
Would love
sure
to talk.
that, as you rightly said, after your college, we have workshops, we have networking sessions and connects with teams. So maybe you can come in and
Sure.
inspire some of the youngsters around of
I would
us.
do that. Love to do that.
Yeah. So guys, thanks for joining in. I think today we got a lot of nuggets from someone as amazing as Pradeep, and I think the key to this is not just to listen, but to start acting on this. We're always there to help you and support you. Please reach out to us. You can write to me on teensmadhelpline@gmail.com. If you have an idea, if you think that you need some help, we're there to connect you to folks in the industry. Pradeep is here now. We had Arun who helped us out in the last episode. So we have a large community base which can help you out. So start sharing, this video to your friends, to those who you feel that this can make a big difference in their lives. So till we come back again with the next episode and the next amazing youngsters in India and across, signing off. Once again, Pradeep, thanks a lot for joining with us.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye.